It was a sunny Monday morning when the literature teacher walked in holding a stack of papers. The hum of students' chatter dulled as she placed the sheets on her desk and turned toward the class with a satisfied smile. All right, everyone, she said, tapping the desk for silence. I'm glad to see so many of you took the fest seriously this year. I've finalized the partner list. Rehearsals begin today. If you are not here with your partner, consider yourself automatically withdrawn. Students leaned forward in anticipation. You sat still, Jungkook sat beside you, one leg casually resting over the other, arms crossed, that ever present lazy grin on his face. The teacher began reading the list one by one. Names echoed through the room. Taemin and Minji. Minji smiled confidently, tossing her hair back, while Taemin gave a small, distracted nod. Jisoo and Hanyul, Mina and Do-young, Jungkook, and she looked up briefly, her eyes skimming over the room before finishing. Wyan. Heads turned, whispers broke out, a couple of surprised gasps. Someone even muttered, "Didn't see that coming." You could feel the weight of every stare, but you didn't look at them. You glanced sideways. Jungkook was already looking at you, his grin widening slightly as he leaned in and whispered, "Told you we would make a scene." You elbowed him under the table. That afternoon, you were assigned rehearsal slots. Yours was in one of the quiet practice halls behind the auditorium. You entered already finding Jungkook lounging on one of the old sofas, flipping through a crumpled script. He tossed another copy at you without looking up. "You are late." "You're always early," he smirked, "because I like to prepare, contrary to what my bad boy reputation suggests." You took a deep breath, trying to calm your nerves. "I still can't believe I'm doing this with you." He looked up. "You scared I'll outshine you?" You narrowed your eyes. "You are playing Mr. Darcy. Try acting a little more refined." He straightened dramatically and cleared his throat, speaking in an over the top British accent. "My dearest Elizabeth, I am but a humble man, tragically in love." You cracked up laughing, covering your mouth. "Stop it," you giggled. "You sound like a villain in a cartoon." He grinned. "Oh, I thought that was the vibe. Should I go full Shakespeare next?" He stood up and bowed theatrically, then placed a hand on his chest and recited dramatically, "To be or not to be, your stage partner." You rolled your eyes, laughing even more. "You are impossible." "And yet," he said, winking, "you are still here." The rehearsal went better than expected. His timing, expressions, all surprisingly good. You had never thought of Jungkook as someone who could act, but somehow he slipped into character naturally. When the scene required a moment of tension, he would lean in just enough to make your breath hitch. His hand would linger near yours just a second longer. His gaze would soften, not just acting, but almost as if he was feeling something real. There was one moment where the script called for him to take your hand. He reached for it slowly, looking into your eyes. "My affections and wishes are unchanged, but one word from you will silence me forever." The words came straight from the book, but the way he said them, your heart skipped. Your fingers tightened slightly in his grip. "You okay?" he whispered after the line. You nodded quickly, pulling your hand back a little too fast. "Yeah, just lines are intense." "Uh-huh," he said with a wink. "Totally just the lines." You looked away, your cheeks warm. Later, while taking a break, you sat on the edge of the stage and sipped water, trying to ignore how fast your heart was beating. He joined you, plopping down beside you. "You blushed earlier," he said casually. "No, I didn't." "You did, right when I said the unchanged affections line. You were red." You were close. Anyone would blush. He leaned in a little. Should I try being closer next time? You pushed him away playfully, laughing. Shut up and read the next page. But even as he grinned and opened the script again, you knew the moment would linger with you much longer than it should. By the third day of rehearsals, Taemin started noticing. It began with small things, the way Jungkook would walk beside you out of the class, books in one hand, your coffee in the other, the way you would lightly punch his arm when he teased you, the quiet way you smiled when he whispered something during practice. Taemin's gaze lingered a second too long as you passed him in the hallway. During one lunch break, he walked by the rehearsal room and paused. Through the small glass window, he saw you laughing, really laughing, as Jungkook knelt dramatically on one knee, overacting his proposal scene. You covered your face with your script, trying not to blush out loud, and Jungkook looked entirely too proud of himself. Taemin frowned. That evening, he finally approached you. You were sitting on the bleachers outside the campus lawn, sipping from a bottle of water, your script open in your lap. Hey, he said, hands in his pockets. You looked up surprised. Hey. He hesitated. I saw your rehearsal with Jungkook. You raised your brow. Okay. He looked uncomfortable. You guys seem close now. You didn't answer immediately. Just partners. You said finally, right. You glanced at him. Why do you sound like that's a problem? I didn't say it was. But you're thinking it. He rubbed the back of his neck. It's just weird, I guess. Seeing you with him, I didn't think you two even talked before this. You smiled slightly. Maybe that was your mistake. He looked at you, something unreadable in his eyes. You have changed. No, Taemin. You sat standing up and dusting off your skirt. I just stopped waiting. He didn't respond. You picked up your script. I have rehearsal. Jungkook hates when I'm late. And you walked away. For the first time, Taemin was left speechless. Back in the rehearsal room, Jungkook was lounging on the floor, his hoodie thrown over his face. 5 minutes late, he said without moving. You counted? I always count when I'm waiting for someone important. You snorted, tossing your bag beside him and sitting cross-legged. You were so dramatic. He lifted the hoodie just enough to smirk at you. Perfect for Mr. Darcy, don't you think? You stare at him for a second, then smile. Maybe this fest wasn't such a bad idea after all. The week leading up to the college fest was buzzing with nervous energy. Students were running around with costumes, scripts, last-minute edits, and nerves jangling like loose threads. Your rehearsal with Jungkook had become the highlight of your day. He no longer walked beside you quietly. Now he offered commentary, teasing remarks, snacks, and surprisingly insightful feedback on your acting. You started sitting together during breaks, sharing playlists, laughing. There was a comfort between you that hadn't existed before. Something steady, but not everyone was happy about it. One afternoon, you were waiting outside the practice hall, dressed in costume for the final dress rehearsal when Taemin approached you. He looked tense, restless. So, it's really happening, he said flatly. You looked up from adjusting your dress. What is? You and Jungkook performing together, getting all this attention? You frowned. It's just a fest, Taemin. He scoffed. Right, just a fest, where suddenly everyone is talking about how unexpectedly good you are, that you two might actually win. You blinked, confused by the tone in his voice. Is that a problem? He shrugged. No, I mean, it's great, really, for someone who is just smart and academic. Not exactly the type people expect to shine on stage. That stung. What's that supposed to mean? I just mean you're not like Minji, alright? She's a natural, she's graceful, she fits the part. You are more the type to win spelling bees. You don't really have that presence. Your lips parted in disbelief. Before you could respond, another voice cut through the hallway. Wow, you really just said that out loud? It was Jungkook. He stood a few steps behind you, arms folded, expression hard. Maybe that's why you picked Minji. Jungkook continued, walking closer. Because you were too insecure to perform next to someone who could actually outshine you. Excuse me? Taemin snapped. No, seriously. Jungkook said calmly, standing between you and him now. You want to talk about presence? Try not using people for your convenience and then tossing them aside when the spotlights shows up. Taemin glared. Don't act like you know anything about me. I know enough. Jungkook replied coolly, like the fact that you don't deserve her. Not as a friend, not as a partner, not even as an afterthought. You placed a hand on Jungkook's arm gently, his jaw still tight with anger. Let it go, you said softly. He's not worth it. Jungkook turned slightly, looked at you and nodded. You met Taemin's eyes one last time. I used to think being smart was enough, you said. But I've learned it's about who sees value in you even when you are not standing on a stage. And then you walked away with Jungkook beside you. The day of the fest arrived. The stage was decorated with deep velvet drapes, golden lights, and a full audience. Parents, professors, alumni, all eyes were on the stage. You and Jungkook stood behind the curtains, ready in your costumes. You were Elizabeth Bennet. He was Mr. Darcy. Hey, he said, fixing your cuff gently, ready to steal the show. You nodded nervously. Are you? He smiled. With you, always. Your name was announced. Performing a scene from Pride and Prejudice, Jungkook and a dramatic pause. YN. You stepped into the lights. For the next 5 minutes, the audience was silent. Every word you spoke held weight. Every time Jungkook looked at you, it was as if Mr. Darcy himself had fallen in love all over again. The scene peaked at the confession. Jungkook took your hand, voice trembling slightly with the emotion of the moment. You must allow me to tell you how ardently I admire and love you. Your own reply came out so sincerely. Your voice softened with emotion. You are too generous to trifle with me. If your feelings are still what they were last April, tell me so at once. When the scene ended, there was a pause. And then thunderous applause. You both bowed, breathless and overwhelmed. Later that evening, during the award ceremony, the host stepped up with an envelope. And the best stage performance award goes to... Everyone leaned in, Jungkook and YN. Cheers erupted. You turned to Jungkook stunned. He grabbed your hand and pulled you toward the stage, grinning wide. You could see Minji blinking in disbelief, Taemin standing with his hands in his pockets, jaw tied, but none of that mattered. You held the trophy in your hand and Jungkook whispered low so only you could hear. Told you we would make a great pair. You turned to him, your heart full. Yeah, you whispered back. We really did. The fest ended, the lights dimmed, the applause faded, and college life returned to its usual rhythm. Back to rushed mornings, sleepy lectures, the cafeteria's bland coffee, and forgotten assignments. But for you, everything felt different because something had shifted. You and Jungkook had gone from occasional glances to constant presence, from awkward classmates to something else, something unspoken but undeniable. People still talked about your performance for days afterward. Did you see the chemistry? They should totally date. And while you pretended not to hear it, your heart fluttered every time someone said it. Jungkook, as usual, acted unfazed. He still showed up late to class, still leaned back in his chair like he had all the time in the world, but every now and then his knees would bump yours under the desk and he wouldn't move it. He would steal your pen not to tease you but so he could keep it in his pocket. He would text you memes at 2 a.m. and then say, I wanted to make you laugh when you wake up. And one rainy afternoon, about a week after the fest, he finally said it. You were both sitting under the same old tree where everything had started, where he had once offered you a crumpled handkerchief and stayed beside you in silence. Now he sat beside you again, this time with 2 cups of hot chocolate, steam curling between you. You were watching the drizzle, hugging your knees to your chest. It's quiet, you murmured. For once, he agreed, but you are here, so it's good kind of quiet. You glanced at him. That was smooth. He chuckled. Yeah, I have been practicing. A beat passed, then he said it. I like you. You turned your head sharply, startled. He was staring at his cup, not meeting your eyes. Not just in a you are fun to annoy way. Not just since the fest. I've liked you for a while. I just kept it quiet because I thought maybe you were too focused on someone else. Your heart skipped, but I wasn't going to let that keep me quiet forever, especially not now. He finally looked at you. Your eyes met, and there was so much warmth in his. I don't need an answer, he said softly. I just needed you to know. You stayed quiet for a moment, then you smiled slowly. Good, because I like you too. His brows lifted. Wait, really? You nodded, cheeks pink. Really? He stared at you like he didn't believe it, then laughed in disbelief. Okay, that's crazy. I thought you were going to throw your hot chocolate at me. Don't tempt me. He leaned in slightly, nudging your shoulder with his. So, wanna go on a date with me? A real one. No scripts, no Mr. Darcy. You chuckled. I would like that. Your first date was nothing extravagant. A cozy little book cafe tucked into a quiet alley near campus. The walls were lined with fairy lights, shelves bursting with second-hand novels, and the smell of cinnamon and coffee hung in the air. You both sat at a corner table, a deck of flashcards in front of you. What are we doing? You asked, sipping your iced latte. He grinned. A compatibility test. Seriously? Yep, 1 point for every answer we match. First one to 10 wins. You laughed. What's the prize? He leaned forward. Winner gets a kiss. Your eyes widened. And who decided that? He winked. I did. I made the rules. By question 8, you were both laughing too hard to keep score properly. By question 10, you weren't even pretending to care. And when he leaned across the table, brushing your cheek with his thumb, before slowly leaning in, you didn't stop him. His lips met yours, soft and warm and unhurried. Your heart fluttered, your eyes fluttered shut. It wasn't your first kiss, but it felt like the first one that truly mattered. When you pulled away, he rested his forehead against yours. See, he whispered, one-sided love doesn't always stay one-sided. You smiled. No, you whispered back, sometimes it just needs a little courage. And he had plenty of that, and now he had you too.